All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of Uper Farmers Cigar Garage Talks. We're here with a very special guest again. Say hello.
Hello.
It must be Sunday. We've got beer, we've got cigars, we've got my wife. It's the only time all three can come together in one. So let's talk about what we're smoking tonight and what we're drinking tonight before we get on to a very interesting and very sudden topic, shall we say.
Sutton.
We are smoking the accidental Maduro, which is not actually, it's Macando,
Macando.
Macando. This cigar, I thought I was getting a much better cigar. Actually found out it's not. It's still pretty good. This one is the espresso with cream. It's a barber pole cigar, and it's actually been infused, so it's actually a sweet cigar. Not one of my favorites. I don't really like the infused and the flavored cigars, but this one's pretty good, especially for a barber pole. It definitely has been post-sweetened too, because you get that little sweetened flavor on your lips. You want to try? See what you think? I didn't think so, but I thought I'd offer.
Thanks.
For the beer, holdover from St. Paddy's Day, Nitro Irish Stout. Who's this one by?
It's got like Red Bull in it or something?
Breckenridge Brewing Company. No, nitro. They use nitrous oxide instead of carbon dioxide, so it makes the bubbles smoother. It sounds cool too, opening up. So it'll be a lot more of a steady head, and the foam and the bubbles will be a lot more pleasant on the tongue. What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, my standard bubbly.
Bubbly. Bubbly, the caffeinated bubbly.
Yeah. I think this is all I'm down to. I haven't been drinking the caffeinated as much.
You have not.
So I think that's all I have left.
There we go. Nice head on it. Very fine bubbles. The nitrous oxide will actually make a little bit finer, softer mouthfeel. You want to try some?
No, that's all right.
It's different than any other beer you've ever experienced. So. Not bad. Actually, it's kind of a watered down flavor for a stout. I don't know if I'd call that Irish, but it's definitely got the nitro to it. Bubbles tickle my tongue. It's delicious. So, honey, tonight, what are we talking about?
I don't know. You mentioned curriculum, but...
Why did I mention curriculum? What are we in the midst of? What's coming up here real soon?
Oh, we're finishing up school.
Finishing up school, so teacher mommy has an important job set ahead of her. Before school can finish, what do you have to do? Pick next year's school name.
I don't pick next year's curriculum necessarily before this year is over. Usually I do assessments first.
Right.
But I get an idea beforehand.
And what do I usually call your curriculum?
No, we're not even going there because that's not true.
It's so true.
It's so not true.
This is definitely your version of porn. Sorry, I'm going to say it there.
I don't get any pleasure from it.
You get lots of pleasure. You obsess over it for
headaches from it.
2 or 3 months. You research it and look it up, and especially these couple of months and just before August. If you're online and you got a smile on your face, I know you're looking at curriculums. So.
That's not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, not true.
So what are we looking at for next year? Who are we getting the curriculum through?
Oh, still Sunlight.
Sunlight. Now, who else have you tried them through?
Well, we haven't tried anything new in several years, but we did try Timberdoodle.
Timberdoodle?
Which has a lot of fun stuff, but the kids... I think if your kid likes workbooks, you'd probably love Timberdoodle, but our kids really don't thrive on multiple workbooks. Like worksheets, okay. A couple of workbooks, that's fine, but every subject a workbook, they really did not flourish. We'll say it that way. But it's a fun program. It's beautiful. It's easy to follow. So we did try Timberdoodle for a couple of a couple of years or just one?
I think it was 2 years.
I think it was 2.
Yeah.
But in comparison, Timberdoodle was a lot more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sunlight is expensive, but it's mostly a one-time cost. I mean, we buy the curriculum and we can use it 6 times.
Hypothetically.
But
With
Timberdoodle.
workbooks and teacher's guides every year.
True, but that's a fraction of what you'd pay for the actual curriculum versus Timberdoodle, where almost everything they used was a consumable, so we had to rebuy it every kid. This one, it's $13 for the math sheets or science sheets or language arts sheets. It's not, $45 to $100 per workbook per subject. So it does end up being cheaper in the long run.
And what other curriculums have we used? Because there's the all-in-one book we used to get.
I'm trying to remember what that was called. I think it's Home Education.
That was by a Chica. It's a girl's name.
I don't remember. No. I can't remember. It's been a long time. That was what we started with almost. Because originally we went with Time for Learning because it was kind of thrust upon us. It was a sudden decision. So we went with Time for Learning because it was all set up already.
Mm-hmm.
Then we switched to the Home Education after we did some research. I think because we weren't really planning on staying with it, and we wanted something that was all in one but wasn't super expensive. But it worked out really well, so then we kept with it.
And so we did that for almost 3 years.
2 years, I want to say. 2 years, 3 years. It was a lot cheaper, but it wasn't. It was a complete curriculum. I can't remember what it was called. It was a complete curriculum, but it wasn't, it didn't come with anything. So you basically got the teacher's guide and the worksheets, and then everything else you had to create yourself. So you either had to go to the library and get all the books, or you had to order the books on Amazon, or you would. So it was a lot as a teacher, it was a lot of legwork each week. Whereas Sunlight, you order it, full kit, everything comes.
All the activities, the crayons, the pencils,
We don't always do it that way, but yeah.
You can get everything.
You can get everything, including, you can get everything for science, right down to the science kit. You can get everything for math, everything for, that is really loud tonight. I
know, I'm going to relight it. You want to give it a second to cool down, and it should be.
So yeah, you can get everything for it.
Yeah. Which
is nice, but, so, yeah, Sunlight is more expensive in my opinion, but, I mean, we've always been happy with it, so.
So we've done Time for Learning.
We did Time for Learning, yeah.
That one kind of did us wrong, though, when they stopped. It was kindergarten, first grade, second grade are beautiful, and then I think we got beyond second grade, and it was like, this isn't as well.
I think we were in first grade, and we were like, okay, this is, because it required so much focus, and it had a lot of, you had to follow the online stuff, but then once you finished the online stuff, you had to do stuff at home, worksheets and exercises and practice. And if you're gonna have to do physical practice with manipulatives and stuff, why bother jumping back and forth with a little one between the computer and the class? And
well, some of their video explanations went down. I mean, I heard they got better, but there were some of their video explanations wow, you kind of just threw that together last minute. Even I was I that's not really a great way to describe that.
Yeah, and the kids got bored with them. Mm-hmm. They got pretty bored with it. It became more like a game than it was
Yeah.
So, but right now we're using ABC Math, the littles as a supplement.
Which we did with Fairy Dancer and Wild and Free Wolf. I don't think we ever did with Ashman or Swedish Compass. We might have done a free trial for a little bit.
Ashman and Swedish Compass were able to use it because we were in Ishpeming and the library had it. The library had access to it. But they couldn't use it as an individual. So they had like the library had like, I think, a group account, and everybody signed in as one person.
Just go and play a little bit.
Yeah, so they played, but they didn't actually get a lot of the benefits. And then we have My Academy for the middles, Fairy Dancer.
Swedish Compass keeps getting kicked off of.
She got kicked off once.
She got threatened 3 times.
So, yes. So we did actually have all 4 of the older ones on My Academy, but now they have Maya Prep. So now the older ones are in the high school based curriculum in Maya Prep, which is nice because sometimes I worry like I'm missing Common Core, I'm missing some like the regular standards that somebody should learn. So it's nice to have those because then I'm not worried about it. They have, they'll definitely get it between our core Sunlight curriculum.
Well, it's a lot of socialization too, that
Yeah.
My Academy and Maya Prep. Because like Swedish Compass has actually quite a few friends. Actually, she'll even tell you that they're better than some of her IRL, in real life friends. And Banishman doesn't talk about them, but I think he does have a few that he talks to on there.
Yeah, I think so.
He's pretty quiet and into himself, and both Fairy Dancer and Wild and Free Wolf have talked about that they have some.
They're starting to get more,
companions.
but we have it set so that they can't do quite as much stuff. I think maybe Wild and Free Wolf we might have to like change her setting so that she can do a little bit more, but
Well, I like that one because they had like stores, so they can create products and sell them to each other, sell them to their friends, and put them out there and learn about marketing and price setting. But the kids really liked the other one. What was the? There was the one they had the little avatars that ran around. We got a free subscription during the Ronas.
Adventure Academy.
Adventure Academy.
Because that was the older version of ABC Mouse, I think.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it's ABC Mouse, and then I think it's Adventure Academy. And I think there was another one that comes like after that. And yeah, so they did get both of those.
This thing is like the bane of my channel. Trying to get this thing to stay lit. Adventure Academy was fun because they had avatars you could run around, but there was definitely some like, okay, this is a little creepy aspects to it because I remember one of the kids found if it was a bot or if it was like someone who definitely was not an under 12-year-old kid. And you'd have like the random generated names that you knew was not actually a kid. Now the moderators did a pretty good job of clearing them, but
well, I didn't like that one because it was a lot less structured. It's not like as a parent you could go on there and set what they could set a time limit, or you have to do.
I think you do a time limit. You just couldn't do.
I don't think you could set what they could. So with My Academy, My Prep, and even Time for Learning, you can give them a schedule of what they need to do each day or what subjects they need to do. And then you can set it so if they don't do those, they can't have free time, which is like games and chatting and
Yeah. I remember Adventure Academy, they earned tokens for finishing class. But they quickly learned how to kind of game that system. I mean, they are gamers at heart, so they quickly learned, okay, if I play, if I do this, which I've done 10 times before, this course, but it's worth 10 tokens, where the next course is worth 2 tokens.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So J-Man, I guess, has figured out how to spend his tokens on ABC Mouse. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've noticed that.
No.
He's bought a hamster, and every time he goes on there, he buys his hamster a new, like, holo trail, I guess is what you'd call it. And just a bunch of, like, treats and just random stuff for this hamster, which he really does want a hamster, so it's kind of funny that he dotes on this hamster, this digital hamster. But for every token he has probably spent, his younger sister has...
Here's a pain in the ass.
I just leave it out.
I'm going to leave it out.
His younger sister has been saving hers, and so I did their assessments today on ABC Mouse, and she has, like, I want to say 1,700 tokens.
Nice.
So I looked at him like, oh my gosh, like maybe she doesn't know how to spend them. But I think she does because her older siblings like to sit next to her and encourage her to spend them. But she has 1,700 tokens.
She's saving up to buy the castle.
And it was just funny because J-Man had 2. He had 2 tokens when I checked on his. I was like, wow. So it's kind of funny to see that. Like, they're completely different personalities on there. But yeah, so they did assessments. I did get the extra package with ABC Mouse. We've never done it before, but we got the assessment package.
Assessment package.
That was interesting. We did the first assessment today, and not surprising what they did very well in, not surprising what they're struggling with. So that didn't surprise me at all. But it's kind of cool because then it actually recommends, like, do this, do that. Like,
Yeah, where to go from there.
yeah, so it has a specific list of activities that essentially, like, these are what work on those skills that they need to master. So that's cool. I don't think you get that on My Academy and Maya Prep, but My Academy and Maya Prep, you can set minimums, so, you know, they don't get a certain score, they can't move on.
Yeah.
Which drives some of them bonkers.
So we use my Academy and Maya Prep as a supplemental. Do you think it could be a standalone?
No. I think there are some people who use it as a standalone, and I think it's actually, like, marketed kind of as a standalone, but I don't think it provides enough instruction or enough practice to be a true standalone. Maybe if you used every aspect of it, because I know that there are, like, worksheets that you can print off of it and stuff. We don't do that. Maybe if we printed off all the extra worksheets and stuff.
Okay.
But I wouldn't feel comfortable using it as a standalone. And that is where My Academy and Time for Learning are different. Like, Time for Learning, especially in the upper grades, because I think we went back to it when they were in 5th or 6th grade for a little bit.
When the beer flu hit, we got a free subscription.
Not to Time for Learning.
No, wasn't. I thought we got a free subscription.
No, that was to the other stuff. So, but we did go back to it for a short time, and their upper elementary and middle school is very thorough. So I would say that one I would be more comfortable using as a, full core curriculum if you wanted to go virtual.
Well, because ABC Mouse wants to be a standalone curriculum.
My Academy wants to be, yeah.
Oh, ABC Mouse. I thought ABC Mouse also was like this is a standalone. You could do it.
No, ABC Mouse is more of a, like, supplemental. Do this many minutes a week and you'll see significant progress. Do this many minutes and you'll see, like, they kind of market it as if your child does this for this many minutes,
Gotcha.
they will master this material much faster than their peers, kind of thing.
Okay.
We'll see. I have not chosen fully for next year. We kind of switched to Matthew C, and that seems to
What's
be
Matthew
working.
C? Why don't you explain that?
I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it.
I wish you would. I know it comes with DVDs, which is kind of going by the way of the dinosaur.
Well, that's true. Well, you can also get the digital pack.
Okay, you can get the digital pack.
Yes, you can get the digital pack.
Right? Oh, nothing and be happy. That's.
I like the DVD. Honestly, I like the DVD because we bought some of them used, and they don't, like, so all we have to buy is the workbook instead of buying the digital pack, the DVD, and the textbook. So I've bought the textbooks used, and then I end up using, like, just having to replace the workbooks, which aren't cheap. It's like $36 to $44 a set for each student, but that's a lot better than the $80-ish we were paying for a math curriculum just for one student.
Just for one student.
So I will say that I think it's a much more fiscally responsible. But it's also, it seems to be the best program we've used. I mean, Swedish Compass has hated math since day one. And this one program, this is the first program where we've used it, and it hasn't had nearly as much resistance and fight. I mean, she doesn't love it. But, you know, if you don't like math, you don't like math. There's no program that's going to make you love it miraculously. So I think
God knows we've looked. We've
tried.
tried and looked.
I've tried dozens of programs. And the worst part is, unfortunately, when you switch programs multiple times, that actually puts them at a disadvantage.
It gives them a little bit,
Because some programs follow, say, you know, A to B to C, but their order or organization of getting there is different than the next program. So Math UC, I think, is going to be the one we stick with. It's nice because it's got manipulatives. It's got little, like, integer blocks, I think, are what they're called. And it has 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s all the way up to 10s. And then it has the 100 blocks. And, you know. So you have a physical representation that you can see. Plus it has the textbook and the DVD. I like the DVD just because then the kids can listen to somebody else teach it. So, and then I can come back and help them if they need it, or I can, you know, with Ashman and Swedish Compass, if it comes down to it, find YouTube videos, or have you teach it.
YouTube instructors, huh?
Yes.
Which I think you never thought you'd say in your life.
It doesn't surprise me at all for math. Like, I understand how to do a lot of the math, but, like, trying to teach it to them who are already frustrated and already, like...
Well, we've definitely seen the rebellion where we'll explain it the exact same way a video does, but because it's not mom and dad explaining it, all of a sudden, that makes sense. Why didn't you just tell us to separate out the numbers and, you know, sum means, when doing a word problem, sum means this, and...
Well, and the DVDs... The instructor reminds me so much of my high school math teacher. It's hilarious because, I mean, he doesn't quite speak in monotone like my math teacher did, but is pretty close. And he's balding in most of the videos. And, you know, he has, I guess that, I want to say typical math teacher.
Look to him.
Typical math teacher look and sound to his voice. And I think that's, I don't know that they enjoy that, but I definitely think that it has made a difference. And there are times when they'll come up and I didn't understand the lesson at all. You got to re-explain it to me, especially Fairy Dancer and Wild and Free Wolf. But usually, like, they actually do understand it, and it's just they need that little one-on-one, somebody showing them, okay, now draw the lines, because they're doing, like, triple digit multiplication and stuff, which is amazing to me that Fairy Dancer at 8 is able to multiply like 4,592 times 38. I mean, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
I could never have done that at 8.
Right, because 8 years old, so that's second grade?
Yeah.
Second grade going on, so...
So, I mean, obviously, Math UC is working for them, and we just started them on it. I think this is their first year with Math
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Because we tried Horizons, which is nice because it has much more colorful workbook pages, and it's bright and engaging, and it's a complete curriculum, I would say, but it just, I don't know, Math UC is just working better.
So you said we talked about curriculums, but this is actually diving into our curriculums. I think last time we talked about the difference between unschooling versus... So we did talk about curriculums. This is actually nuts and bolts. Because before, you kind of spoke some hesitation about covering this subject. I think we did this, right? No, we definitely did not talk about our curriculum.
That's true.
We talked about the different types of curriculums. I was trying to rack my brain here. Because I don't think we did. I don't remember ever talking about, like, our curriculums.
We did talk about curriculum. It was just more of an overview of what to do and how to search. And
Are you still set that a structured curriculum is the way to go?
for me, definitely.
Why?
Well, one, it's a lot easier
Why?
because I don't have to plan ahead. Like it's okay. So the first couple of years we homeschooled, it was one, I scheduled everything myself. I did all the research on the Michigan State website for what they needed to know. I read a ton of books. And then no matter how much I read, I still had to buy a curriculum because like you're making something of nothing without any experience. So like trying to create your own worksheets and everything is very
We
challenging.
bought a lot of worksheet kits.
We did.
I'm gonna throw a couple logs on so we're talking here.
So, I mean, that was challenging, but not just that, but the whole like setting your own schedule and organizing it and planning ahead for an entire school year. Not impossible. I mean, we did it for 3-4 years, I
I
think.
think at least 4 years because we were more using like the time for learning also as almost a supplement.
Yeah. So I did it, but once I had two sets of students, once we had the two olders and then we had what are now our middles, it was like took what was like an hour and a half or 2 hours of prep a week easily and doubled or tripled it because now I'm prepping for twice as many students. I still do our own planning because there are some subjects that we still do together. We do Bible together. We do Bible together as a big group, and then each set has their own Bible that they do either with me or individually, depending on their age.
So it's unfortunate. It was Sunlight, wasn't it? That as long as you put enough information online, they actually gave you some credits for. Was that Sunlight or was that the other one that like they gave you discounts if you? Because you got like there was one of them they gave you a bunch of money off every time you post on like
Actually,
the groups and Facebook.
no,
and,
that was Sunlight and Timberdoodle both offer like you have your own code, and so you can share it on your Facebook or whatever. And if people click on it and buy anything, you get a percentage off, or you get
so
like
maybe
points.
we should find your code because let's dive into Sunlight here. 'Cause maybe we should put your Sunlight code. Although we shouldn't because then YouTube gets all wonky about that. But
No, you share it on my Facebook, and then I just put my code underneath and my.
well, I can do both. We can put your code
Right.
in the link below.
Yep.
Maybe I will. Who knows? There is some. You got to click promotional material, and then it flags it. And
Honestly, Sunlight
It's all
is
weird.
my favorite so far, and we've tried a bunch of different.
let's talk about Sunlight because it's interesting because Sunlight is a semi-religious,
It's very religious.
Yeah.
curriculum.
which has been both a blessing and a curse at the same time. No secret, everyone here knows that we are extremely Catholic. But why don't you talk a little about the challenges of being a Catholic with Sunlight? I mean, Sunlight is great. I have no complaints. I mean, it costs us for Sunlight anywhere from $800 to $1,600. This year is going to be a lot more expensive because we got to start getting some of the high school crap, which they just rob you blind when it comes to high school. So that's fine. It's probably more like about $3,000. I'm guessing.
2,000.
2,000 for the olders, but then we got to get some.
No,
workbooks.
that's everything.
Oh, that's everything. Okay, so this will be the most expensive we dropped. Now, granted,
In a few years.
here, my wonderful wife always tells me it's $2,000. That's it for our curriculum this year for everything. It's not everything. There's
all
math programs.
No, this actually is math.
No, don't
this
you
is
start.
Science,
Don't
this
you
is
start.
everything.
At last year, I kind of kicked her down where she stood. She's like, we only spent like $900. Like, wait a second.
Okay.
Wait a second. Yes, your Sunlight order was $900, which through a couple programs we were able to get a good chunk of that reimbursed. But then I was like, and then here's this expense, this expense, this expense, So anyhow, from the Sunlight order will probably about 2,000 bones, which again a lot of that comes to the olders need fresh curriculums. They need fresh what they call cores. They're
Yeah, so we have the history, Bible, and literature core, and so the cores range in price for younger grades, $350. I think there's a couple maybe that are even cheaper than that, but $350 for the younger cores, and then they slowly gain in price because they get more books, and then you have to add in like language arts and readers as they grow. But the nice thing is you can use them over again. So we bought core D and core E for our two oldest, for Ash and for Ashman and Swedish Compass. So we bought D and E brand new, and then I found somebody selling G and H, so we bought those used, and then I bought J new. And then,
now maybe explain these cores, like what the lettering, because that gets I'm even confused.
Oh, okay, that's
because like you have K. Let's try buying K. So I go, okay, so we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. So K must be.
So K is a brand new core, so that's confusing because it used to be they would go in order. So you had your preschool, and then you had pre-K, which is pre-kindergarten, and then the original kindergarten core was actually A, and so then you went up by letter, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, H, and then there was no I, oddly enough, and then there's J. There was no K. It went to I think W, and so it keeps on going, and then there's core 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500 for the high school grades, 100 and up. J is still high school too, and G and H kind of upper level middle school, lower level high school can.
Then she accuses me of not understanding the cores, and I wonder why.
So they're made to last for multiple grades, so you can combine your kids together. So if you have, say, a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, then they could both encompass core A or core B, and those are, K through 2 or 1 through 3, and that's how all the cores are. They're multiple grades.
Well, that's one of the things we talked about here is you have our middle two children, the Wild and Free Wolf and Fairy Dancer, have to do a bump year, as you call it, where they'll do core A, core B, and then they do A and B the next year.
We did core A, we did B, we did C, and then they have what's called a condensed core, which is meant for like if you're jumping into sunlight kind of in the middle of a grade, then you do a condensed core, but we're using it, yes, as a bump year. So we did core B, which is World History 1, and core C, which is World History 2. But they were a little young to start core D, which is more like a 4th or 5th grade level. So instead of starting core D that next year, we did B and C condensed, which combines some of the best books from both cores. And it's nice for them because then the only thing that's really advancing for them is their language arts or their readers and math. So a lot of the books are the same. We go through the same books over, but it's kind of nice because then we get to read our favorites over. So this year they did D, next year they'll do E, and then probably the year after we're going to have to do the condensed again, but we'll see.
Side note, I'm definitely buying the garage door insulation my next paycheck.
Still cold.
It's amazing how much cold air is coming off this garage. We're sitting right next to the wood stove again. This great investment. I got the garage up to 60 degrees. Just before the sun set, I was ready to take my jacket off. I was going to come here short sleeves, and
I'm chilled though right here.
You're chilled a little bit, but that doesn't take much. That takes
that's
a little breeze or something. But I'm sitting next to the garage door, and this sucker's pumping out the cold air. I can feel it. So, not that my garage is at all insulated. That's a long-term project to get the attic and the walls, but the walls are going to be a pain in the butas because there's a lot of pegboard everywhere, and there's a lot of little built-ins that I built in, and the predecessor who was here built in, not well, of course. But yeah, so that's got to happen. That's just a fun little side note. I'm getting
a bit chilled over there.
Getting a little chilly over here. I know it's the garage door because it's just one side of my body is getting chilled, where the other side, that's kind of pointing towards the wood stove, is doing great. Little side note, that's what we like to do these here. But let's go back to the religious part. So this is a lot of religion in the history. They have Bible studies actually part of the core, which is very nice. That's one of the reasons we kind of gravitated towards this one. It's because it did put a lot of emphasis in religion. But is it Catholic friendly? Let's be honest.
Definitely the lower level cores are 100% just, I would say, Catholic friendly. There is, I think, around core G, you start seeing and it's because you're dealing with history and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They address the Martin Luther nailing the 95 protestations on the door.
The start of the Protestant religion.
Yeah. So, I mean, in a couple of the spaces and some of the books I found are very, very not exactly anti-Catholic, but definitely not pro-Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So we took to subbing those out.
Well, because you even said the one coming up here, you got a lot of word that it's not friendly 100% to Catholics, because we're going to get...
Oh, yes. Yes, Core 200 is the history of the Christian church.
We got some word that does not exactly put Catholics in the best of light.
Which is okay. They don't always have to be... They're not without fault throughout history.
They're not without faults, but you can definitely put that into context of, okay, well, while the Catholics were doing this, you also have other religions who
there really weren't other religions.
Well, there were other religions, but they were stoning people to death still for, adultery, or they were,
Well, there were a lot of, again, historically there were mistakes in the church, and then honestly, a lot of the problems were like before Martin Luther nailed his 95 thesis or whatever I think they were called. A lot of their complaints were against clergy who were actually not very good people.
There were some, especially during that time, we openly admit that there were a few even popes who...
Yeah, there were some bad people.
Yeah.
And so those, I still think that's important to learn.
It is. I'm not going to say we're going to hide that from our children at all.
But some of the, once you get past that point, okay, once you get past where Martin Luther nails his theses to the door.
Because that was 13th century Martin Luther nailed it, or was that closer to 15th or 16th?
I don't remember. I do know that, once you got past that point, then you get a lot of other issues, because the church, in trying to keep everybody combined, ends up making some mistakes. And of course you have the Age of Enlightenment, where people are turning to science, and then there's all the whole issue with turning to science, and scientists being accused of blasphemy and heresy. And
so put a comment in there. We're gonna do a editing pause here, because this video's at 30 some odd minutes and it's gonna go longer. And this just helps me in the long run. And just in case you guys might catch, there's a video we did the woes of homesteading, and it was an hour-long video. You might notice we only posted at 30 minutes, because we said we're going to take care of our kids. Actually, that might not be a bad thing to do. Put our kids to bed right now. We're going to try it again, where I cut off here. Put our kids to bed. We'll come back to the woes of the Catholic Church and science, but we'll see what happens. So we're going to pause here, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully this continues past 30 minutes. So we'll be right back in about 2 minutes. Hold still. Greetings, this is Uper Farmer, editing here in the future. Just letting you guys know, we did actually come back. We recorded that same night, but when we got back from putting the kids to bed, the topic pivoted so much that my lovely wife suggested I turn this into 2 separate videos, one about curriculum, one about religion. If you didn't get to watch that one, I'll post a quick little card up here. So just letting you know, we did come back. So anyway, hope everyone has a good one. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one.